What if the most deeply spiritual person on earth isn't, some monk meditating in a secluded cave for decades? What if it's actually a chess grandmaster staring silently at a wooden board?
I mean, it completely flips the script on what we even think the word spiritual means.
Right, it really does.
And it fundamentally changes what it means to actually know something in the first place.
Welcome to today's deep dive. We are exploring this really fascinating academic text today, and it's titled Spirituality as Structural Knowledge, a Batesonian Hypothesis.
We got a title, yeah.
Yeah, quite a mouthful. But our mission for you today is massive. We are looking at a framework here that completely reframes the age-old, incredibly tired science versus religion debate.
Which we've all heard a million times.
Exactly, because usually we treat spirituality as belief, right?
Yeah.
Stuff you just have to take on faith because you obviously can't prove it.
Right, it's just out there.
But what if spirituality isn't about blind belief at all?
Yeah.
What if we looked at it through the lens of systems theory?
It is a profound paradigm shift. I mean, this text asks us to step back
Yeah.
and really examine how modern society decides what is real.
Yeah.
Because we live in an era where data is king. You can pull your phone out right now and get the exact coordinates of your location, your resting heart rate, the GDP of a country halfway across the world.
Right. Our GPS can tell us exactly where we are on the planet down to the millimeter.
Down to the millimeter, exactly.
But it can't tell us why we are there
or,
or, what we should do next.
No, it can't.
We have this absolute mountain of data, yet there's this lingering cultural anxiety for a lot of people that we're completely starved for actual meaning.
Yeah, that's a great way to put it.
It's like we have a million puzzle pieces scattered on the floor, but somebody threw away the box with the picture on the front.
And that tension, that exact feeling, is the starting point here. We have essentially conflated the accumulation of data with the possession of understanding.
Which are definitely not the same thing.
Not at all. Modern epistemology, which is just, a fancy term for our theory of knowledge, heavily privileges what we call empirical knowledge.
Okay.
Empirical knowledge is everything that can be isolated, measured, quantified, and externally verified.
So it's the domain of the ruler, the laboratory scale, the microscope.
Exactly. The hard sciences. And let's be clear, I mean, empirical knowledge is incredibly powerful.
Oh, yeah, obviously.
By isolating variables, we can predict and control outcomes.
Yeah.
It gave us modern medicine, the internal combustion engine, the moon landing.
Yeah, if you want to build a suspension bridge that won't collapse, you desperately need empirical knowledge.
Right. But the author points out that our obsession with the empirical has created a sort of trap.
How so?
Because our modern default setting has become, if it cannot be measured, it isn't real.
Oh, I see.
It just gets tossed into this dismissive bucket of mere belief or subjectivity. If you can't put a number on it, society essentially says, well, that's just a personal feeling.
Okay, let's unpack this. Because if I can't measure something, right? If I can't put a number on it or isolate it in a test tube, how do I know I'm not just making it up?
Right. That's the natural skeptical pushback.
Like if I look at a painting, say, the Mona Lisa empirical knowledge would be a chemist scraping off a tiny piece of the canvas, putting it in a machine, and telling me the exact percentage of, I don't know, titanium white and ultramarine blue paint.
Yes. They have isolated the variables.
Right.
And the chemist has produced a totally verifiable empirical fact.
Yeah.
But what happens when you step back 10 feet?
You see a human face, you see a woman smiling.
Exactly.
But I can't extract the smile and put it in a beaker. I can't mathematically isolate the faceness of the painting.
No, you can't.
But it would be insane to say the face isn't real just because it's not a chemical compound.
And that right there is the essence of structural knowledge. The person who steps back and recognizes the face isn't using a microscope. They are detecting patterns. They are relying on the coherence and the relationships between those specific colors and shapes. The paint only becomes a face when the parts are related to one another in a very specific way.
So it's not the paint itself, it's the arrangement, it's the relationships.
Precisely. Structural knowledge relies on coherence over time and relational feedback, not single instance measurement.
Wow, okay.
And this actually has deep roots. Think of Aristotle's concept of phronesis.
Phronesis.
Yeah, it translates to practical wisdom. Aristotle argued that truly knowing something isn't just about memorizing theoretical facts. It involves having the right perception within a messy, real-world context.
Kind of like the difference between reading a book on the physics of basketball
Yes.
and being a point guard who knows exactly when to pass the ball during a chaotic fast break.
That's practical wisdom. It's recognizing the reality of the situation as it flows.
But wait, recognizing a face in a painting or knowing when to pass a basketball is relatively easy because the game is happening right in front of you. How do we actually detect invisible relationships in the real world? Like, how do we study the structure of things we can't see? Who is actually looking at that?
Well, this brings us to the foundational work of Gregory Bateson. He was a legendary interdisciplinary thinker and systems theorist.
Okay, I've heard the name.
Bateson was a bit of a maverick because he violently resisted the scientific urge to constantly isolate variables. He argued that if you isolate a living system to study it, you kill it.
Oh, wow.
Yeah. You destroy the very relationships that make it what it is.
And he proposed something that honestly kind of broke my brain when I read it in the source text.
Oh, I bet I know with Kurt.
He argued that the mind is not located solely inside your physical skull.
Right.
Instead, the mind exists in patterns of relationship. Like, what does that even mean?
It's a completely radical idea. Bateson famously asked this question. When a blind man uses a stick to navigate the sidewalk, where does the blind man's self end?
Okay.
Does it end at his brain, at his hand, at the handle of the stick, or at the tip of the stick tapping the concrete?
I mean, instinctively I want to say the hand, but I see where this is going.
Right. Bateson argued that the mind is the entire system. The brain, the hand, the stick, the sidewalk, they are all working together to process information.
The system is the mind.
Exactly. And understanding that system requires what he called the pattern which connects. Meaning, we only really understand reality when we recognize how different systems relate to each other, not by staring at isolated data points.
Right.
Bateson defined information in a very specific way, actually. He called it a difference which makes a difference.
A difference which makes a difference.
Yes, meaning only ever arises through relational context.
So, kind of like, think about a time you walked into a kitchen right after your parents were having a vicious whispered argument, like about who forgot to load the dishwasher or something.
Oh, we've all been there.
Right. You walk in, and your mom is scrubbing a pan with terrifying intensity, and your dad is staring into the refrigerator like the secrets of the universe are hidden behind the orange juice.
She's pretending everything is fine.
Exactly. The silence in that room is absolutely deafening. Now, you don't need a decibel meter to measure the quiet. You feel the relational shift. You read the tension. That silence is a difference that makes a difference.
What's fascinating here is, notice what you were doing in that kitchen. You aren't gathering raw data. You aren't measuring the temperature of the room.
No, not at all.
You are organizing the context based on relational cues. You already possess structural knowledge of your family's dynamics.
Right, I'm reading the vibe.
Exactly. Bateson actually mapped this out through different levels of learning. He called them learning I, 2, and 3.
Okay, break those down for me real quick.
Sure. So imagine training a dog. Learning I is simple stimulus and response. The dog sits, the dog gets a treat. The dog learns a specific, isolated fact.
Makes sense.
Learning 2 is higher order. The dog learns how to learn. The dog recognizes the context. We are doing the training game right now. It recognizes the pattern of the activity itself.
Okay, so it steps back and sees the wider game. So what is learning the third?
Well, learning the third is rare. It is a profound shift in the self's relationship to the entire system.
Oh, wow.
It's when the underlying paradigms that govern our perception are themselves challenged and restructured. In humans, this might look like a sudden, deep realization of the illusion of the separate ego, like a true paradigm shift.
What sounds intense.
It is. An error, in Bateson's systemic view, happens when we misread these levels of relational distinction.
Like if I walk into that incredibly tense kitchen we just talked about, look around and say, wow, it's so quiet in here. What a great environment to read my book.
Exactly. You have completely flattened the relational reality.
I missed the pattern.
You saw the white paint, but you missed the face on the canvas.
Wow. Which perfectly sets up the most radical claim of this entire hypothesis.
Yeah, let's get into it.
Here's where it gets really interesting. If we take Bateson's systems theory, this focus on relational structure and pattern recognition, and we apply it directly to human spirituality.
It strips away all the usual religious dogma.
Exactly. The author defines spirituality simply as, and I quote, the human capacity to recognize and align with relational patterns that hold across experience.
Think about what that definition achieves. It completely rescues spirituality from being a purely subjective, irrational feeling.
Right.
And it also stops trying to force spirituality to behave like an externally measurable scientific fact. It frames it, instead, as a highly advanced form of pattern literacy.
Which brings us back to our chess grandmaster from the beginning.
Yes, perfect callback.
If spirituality is pattern literacy, a spiritual master isn't someone harboring magical beliefs about the universe, right?
Wow.
A spiritual master is just a master pattern recognizer.
Yeah.
Like when a novice looks at a chessboard, they see 32 isolated wooden pieces. They have empirical knowledge of the board.
Pieces in the squares.
But a grandmaster looks at the exact same board and sees it entirely differently. They don't see wood, they see lines of force,
Yes.
they see potential energy, tension, implicit threats. They see a pattern that connects the entire board into a single breathing organism.
Because the Grandmaster possesses deep structural knowledge of the game.
Exactly.
And what's fascinating is how this systems theory view aligns with other major intellectual heavyweights. Take Carl Jung, for instance.
Oh, the psychology guy.
Right. Jung is often misunderstood as some sort of mystic because he talked about archetypes. But Jung wasn't talking about magical entities floating in the sky.
He wasn't.
No, he was talking about recurring symbolic patterns in human behavior and psychology. Archetypes are just the structural blueprints of the human experience.
Or Michael Polanyi, the philosopher who coined the phrase, "We know more than we can tell."
Yes. Polanyi's concept of tacit knowledge. He pointed out that you know perfectly well how to ride a bicycle, right?
Right. Yeah.
But if I handed you a piece of paper and asked you to write down the exact physics equations and the neuromuscular commands required to maintain your balance.
Oh, I'd have no idea. I couldn't do it.
Exactly. Your structural knowledge of riding the bike is implicit and relational. It cannot be reduced to explicit, measurable data.
It's felt, not calculated.
Precisely. And the text also brings in Thomas Kuhn, the historian of science. He's the guy who gave us the term paradigm shift.
Oh, I didn't know he coined that.
He did. And Kuhn is crucial here because he demonstrated that science itself relies on structural knowledge.
Wait, really? How?
He showed that paradigms, these overarching frameworks of understanding, literally shape what scientists are capable of perceiving.
Okay, give me an example.
Well, before the germ theory of disease became the dominant paradigm, doctors couldn't see the importance of washing their hands between autopsies and delivering babies.
Right. That history is so dark.
It really is. But the empirical data, the germs, they were always there. But without the structural paradigm to organize that data, it was invisible to them. The paradigm dictates the perception.
Okay, this all sounds incredibly logical, but it begs a really obvious question for me.
What's that?
If spirituality is just highly advanced pattern recognition, if it's basically the systems engineering of the human experience, why does traditional spiritual language sound so cryptic? Like, why does it sound like poetry or myth instead of, an instruction manual?
Right. That is what the author calls the translation problem. Human beings, we do not have USB ports in our heads.
Sadly.
Sadly, we cannot access structural knowledge directly. We have to use language, symbol, and pattern as an interface to reality.
And the text argues that the language we use, functions as a carrier of relational structure, not just as raw information.
Exactly. Meaning isn't found by just looking up a word in a dictionary. The meaning lives in the recursive interpretation between the speaker, the listener, and the world.
Which explains the function of traditional proverbs, myths, and spiritual teachings across almost every culture.
Yes, it does.
Because in this framework, a myth isn't a primitive attempt to explain science. A myth is a compressed structural model.
A compressed structural model, yes.
It's a zip file.
It is exactly a zip file.
Like, think about the story of the boy who cried wolf. If you want to teach a 5-year-old about the sociological decay of trust, the mathematics of repeated false signaling, and the ultimate collapse of social capital.
You can't hand them a spreadsheet.
No. They will stare at you blankly.
Right.
Instead, you hand them a compressed structural model. You tell them a story about a shepherd boy, a village, and a wolf.
You compress the complex relational pattern into a narrative. But here's the catch with structural knowledge. The story appears incredibly vague or simplistic when it is abstracted from reality.
Oh, right.
It only becomes razor-sharp and precise when it is mapped onto the lived experience.
Because you can be told the story of the boy who cried wolf. You can be told the dictionary definition of a concept like integrity. You can read that integrity means doing the right thing when no one is looking.
Right.
But honestly, until you live it, it's just a cliche. It's just white noise.
Yeah.
You don't truly know what integrity is until you are sitting in a room, tempted to lie to save your own skin, and you feel that internal tension. You have to watch the patterns converge in your own actions. You can't just download the experience of integrity. You have to unzip the file by living it.
This raises an important question, though, about how we transmit wisdom across generations.
Because it's hard.
It's very hard, because structural knowledge depends entirely on the receiver's ability to recognize the pattern. It cannot be substituted with raw information.
Right.
I cannot hand you a manual on how to navigate grief or how to deeply love another person. I can only point to it. I can model it, symbolize it through art or ritual, or approximate it through myth.
But the listener has to do the heavy lifting. They have to actually participate.
Always. Spirituality, when understood as structural knowledge, is inherently experiential and participatory. It requires you to be in the arena. You cannot learn it from the stands.
Wow.
And this connects right back to Bateson's hierarchy of learning. To reach that higher order learning, to actually change the paradigm of how you view your life, you have to undergo a shift in context, not just accumulate more facts.
Which brings us to the ultimate payoff of this entire deep dive.
The big conclusion.
Yeah. If we view spirituality as this rigorous, participatory, pattern recognition faculty, where does this leave the historical war between science and religion?
Right.
Because for centuries, society has told us it's a zero-sum game. You have to pick a team.
You're either on one side or the other.
Exactly. You are either a rational, data-driven person of science, or you are a faith-driven person of spirit.
Well, the beauty of this integrative hypothesis is that it dissolves the rivalry entirely.
It completely gets rid of it.
Yeah, it proposes that science and spirituality are not competitors fighting over the same territory. They are complementary modes of engaging with the exact same reality.
There is a quote from the text that distills this so perfectly. Science measures what can be isolated. Spirituality recognizes what must be related.
It is a brilliant distinction.
Yeah.
The text goes on to say, some truths are measured, others are seen.
Others are seen. I love that.
Now, this isn't a free pass for lazy magical thinking in the name of spirituality. Both domains require immense rigor.
Right. It's not just making things up.
No. But structural knowledge requires a different kind of rigor. A rigor grounded in internal coherence, in tracking complex relational patterns over a lifetime, and in lived verification.
Think about how freeing this framework is for you listening right now. You don't have to split your brain in half to navigate the modern world.
No, you don't.
You don't have to reject the scientific method to feel connected to the universe, and you don't have to abandon meaning to appreciate data.
Right.
It's like having two distinct tools in your cognitive toolkit. One is a highly calibrated microscope. It is perfectly designed to examine the isolated parts, to dissect the cell, to give you empirical data. And the other tool is a wide-angle lens designed to step back and help you understand how the cell relates to the tissue to the body, and the body to the environment.
You wouldn't use a microscope to watch a sunset.
No.
And you wouldn't use a wide-angle lens to sequence a genome.
You look ridiculous.
Right. You need both to comprehend the totality of the world. And if we connect this to the bigger picture, it opens up some incredible uncharted frontiers for future inquiry.
Like what?
Well, can this structural knowledge ever be formalized into a new kind of language?
Huh.
Are there invariant relational patterns out there that function just like laws in empirical physics?
Oh, I see.
Just as gravity exerts a pull on mass, are there relational laws that exert a pull on human consciousness?
Wow. And as we evolve, will we develop a modern vocabulary for this science of pattern that finally strips away the cultural and ideological baggage of the past?
Exactly.
Can we talk about these deep structures without tripping over ancient dogmas?
That is the open horizon this paper points toward. It doesn't claim to answer all those questions. But by reframing the problem entirely, it allows us to start asking the right questions.
It takes that modern X-ray machine we talked about at the beginning, the one that demands clean, empirical, binary measurements for everything, and it gives us permission to turn it off.
Just for a minute.
Yeah, it asks us to just open our eyes and look at the whole picture. So if we distill everything we've explored today, the ultimate takeaway is this. Spirituality is not belief without evidence.
No.
It is a disciplined, rigorous engagement with relational structure. It is recognition without instrumentation.
I would leave you with one final thought to mull over as you go about your day.
Let's hear it.
If Traditional spiritual teachings are actually an early science of pattern. Look at your own life right now.
Right.
Look at your career, your family dynamics, your internal anxieties. What complex, messy situations are you currently trying to measure or quantify in isolation, hoping a new data point will fix it?
That's a great question.
What if what you actually need to do is put down the ruler, step back, stop measuring, and simply recognize the overarching pattern that connects it all?
Stop analyzing the chemical makeup of the paint and recognize the face on the canvas. Thank you for joining us on this deep dive. Keep seeking those structural connections in your daily life, and we'll catch you next time.